So you want a sport bike and you're a taller rider, this video is for you. What's up guys, it's Alex. One of the most requested things I've had lately in the comment section on some of my other videos is, what about sport bikes for taller riders? I did a sport bike video before on good beginner sport bikes, and of course, since I'm being responsible with my recommendations for beginners are all smaller bikes, right? So they're all like 250s, 300s, things like that. So I've had a lot of people that message me and say, okay, what about, you know, I'm 6'3" or I'm 6'4", I'm really tall, I'm really big. What about a sport bike for me? So that's going to be this one. Ask and you receive. This is sport bikes for taller riders. So I'm going to do a couple of things here real quick. I'm going to do a couple suggestions that I think are really, really good sport bikes to start with if you're a taller rider. Like, you want a sport bike, you want your first bike, you're a taller rider. So you don't want something too crazy, right? And I'm also going to give a couple suggestions that'll be really, really good for people that are a little bit more experienced. You've been riding for a while, you want a sport bike, or you got one, you want a bigger sport bike. So I'm going to give a couple really good ones for starters, and I'm going to give a couple that are really good long-term sport bikes for taller or bigger riders, okay? Just real broad stuff. If you guys want anything more in-depth, ask me, put it in the comments. I'll make more in-depth videos on certain models and even more suggestions, okay? This is just kind of broad strokes. Good sport bikes for taller riders. Let's go, okay? Alright, starting off with, we're going to do the beginner bikes first, right? So, you're a taller rider, you want to get into sport bikes, you want a kind of beginner to maybe second motorcycle for a taller rider for sport bikes, alright? Couple of really good suggestions. First off, Kawasaki Ninja 650, okay? They've been making these since like 2006, so you can get them all over the place used. They've done a little bit of updating over the years, but all of them are going to be a 650 twin motor. They're fuel injected. They're really, really easy. They're quick enough and have good enough handling to keep you happy as a sport rider. They have easy enough throttle characteristics, and they're rider friendly enough where you could easily, as a tall rider, start with one of these and be just fine and ride it for a long, long time, right? Great motorcycles. You get tons and tons of mileage out of them. They get good gas mileage. They're rock solid. I've sold tons of them all throughout the years. They're all really, really great, okay? Again, used, you can find them all over the place. You can get them new. They're not expensive. They're a little bit taller. I don't know if you guys can see. They've got a little bit more upright handlebars and everything. You know, for a guy of my height, they're not really a problem, but for a really tall guy, they're not going to be as cramped as like a little 250 or 300, or even like a 600 Super Sport that's got leaned over handlebars on it, okay? So, first recommendation, good beginner sport bike for tall people, Kawasaki Ninja 650, okay? So we're going to start there. All right, next best recommendation, I don't have one here, so I'm going to put it up on the screen, a picture of it, is going to be a Suzuki SV650S, okay? The reason I say the S is because the S, the way they did the bars and everything on it, it stretches out just a little bit more to me than the naked versions. And most of the guys that want a sport bike, they're wanting that full plastic, fully faired look. You can get the SV650 in a version with plastics, the S that I'm talking about, or you can get it without plastics if that's your thing. But the SV650S, they made for several years also. You'll find them cheap. They'll be used all over the place. Just like the Ninja 650, it's one that's kind of a little bit more upright sitting, a little bit taller, stretches out just a little bit more. Nice, good handling, quick bike that is also easy enough to get used to as a first-time rider. 650 V-twin. It's Suzuki's 650 V-twin that they use in the V-Stroms and all kinds of stuff, okay? I know I'm getting kind of far down the rabbit hole on that, but really, really good motor. Really tough to kill it. I personally know a guy that's got 70-something thousand miles on one of those motors, so great recommendation. So that would be my other really good one to look for a little bit taller, bigger sport bike for a first one, okay? Suzuki SV650S or the naked one if you don't want the S, okay? Cool. Now, really good sport bikes to get into if you want a bigger sport bike, you're a bigger person, that are not necessarily beginner bikes. So once again, these next few I'm going to go over are good sport bikes for bigger, taller people. They are not good beginner bikes, okay? They're heavier, lots of power. Been riding for a while? Awesome. If you're a beginner, these bikes are not necessarily for you. I know I'm going to get in the comment section. There's going to be a few people that are like, oh, I had one of those for my first bike and I did just fine. Awesome. super cool. I'm just saying that I don't recommend them for most first-time riders is what I'm getting at, okay? So, in the world of bigger sport bikes for bigger people, the very first one and the biggest contender has got to be this thing right here. Suzuki Hayabusa. The GSX 1300R, also known as the Hayabusa, has got to be, and I'll get some hatred comments for this because there's another bike on this list that competes with it, but has got to be the long-running king of big sport bikes. I say that because they've been making them since 98 or 99. They made some upgrades in 2008, little tiny upgrades along the way, but basically it has been the undisputed best-selling king of big, huge sport bikes for that long, okay? It's big. It's a 1300cc inline four-cylinder motor that stock will do almost 200 miles an hour. In the US, I think they're governed at 186 last time I checked. The original versions did 200 miles an hour, and the US DOT was like, we don't like that at all. Suzuki Hayabusa. Big motor, big bike, stretched out. Most of the big guys, big guys that I know that ride sport bikes end up on a Hayabusa eventually. First one, Suzuki Hayabusa. You can find them all kind of year ranges. You'll find them used, you'll find them new. They're really tough motorcycles. First, great choice, Suzuki Hayabusa. Second, we're going to go ahead and go with another Suzuki, okay? This one's a little bit different. This one sits up a little bit more. It's a little bit different styling, so some of you super sport guys aren't going to like it as much, but really good choice for a really tall guy, because I've known several tall guys that had these. Bandit 1250. That sucker right there. 1250cc inline four-cylinder, tons of power. It's got those upright bars, so it sits a little bit more straight up, a little bit more comfortable. Big, long, stretched out bike. So for a big guy, very, very comfortable bike. If you can find one, maybe also sit on a Bandit 1250, okay? Third bike. If you're big and you want a sport bike that you probably should look at, this is the direct competitor for that Suzuki Hayabusa. This is what I was saying was going to get me a little bit of hate mail, okay? Kawasaki ZX14. 1400cc, great big huge Ninja. The direct Kawasaki competition for that Suzuki Hayabusa I mentioned is the Kawasaki Ninja ZX14 or ZX14R, whatever you want to call it. Basically, for all intents and purposes, same thing as a Hayabusa, but it's a Kawasaki, okay? Looks a little different, sits just slightly different. Some people like Hayabusas better, some people like the ZX14s better. They're both really great, big, huge, stretched out sport bikes. So, sit on a Hayabusa, sit on a ZX14, see what feels right to you. As I've always said, motorcycles are a very personal thing. It's all about whatever feels right to you guys, okay? Third recommendation for a big sport bike for my more advanced riders, okay? One last suggestion is go look around used a little bit. If you just want a way cheaper one, those Hayabusas, ZX14s, Bandits, you can find those, you know, pretty much all over the place used. But if you want a little bit older, a little bit cheaper bike, look at a couple other things, okay? Go look up a Kawasaki ZX12. Those are a little bit bigger, more stretched out sport bike. And look up a Honda Blackbird, okay? Go look those up. Those could also be a really good stretched out bike. There are other big, older, stretched out sport bikes. I'm just listing my top recommendations, that's all, okay? I know there's going to be guys out there that are like, there's tons of other great bikes. What about this bike? What about this bike? What about this bike? I'm just listing my top recommendations. If you have questions about specific bikes, you want to know if they're good or bad, put them in the comments below. As always, guys, ask me any questions you have. I'll answer anything I can get to. I'll make videos for them if enough people ask me the same questions. This has just been some sport bikes for bigger, taller people that you can try out. A couple for beginners, a few of them for more advanced riders. Just giving you some ideas, okay? If I keep getting this question a lot, I may do in-depth videos on both directions, maybe one just for beginners and one just for the more advanced riders. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Drop a like, subscribe, keep asking the questions. You guys in the community are what makes all this worth it. Peace.